I'm going to call the meeting to order. It is 7 p.m. and this is the regular meeting of the Kaneland Board of Education. We would like to inform all board meeting attendees that this meeting is being live streamed and archived for access at any time by our community members on the internet within 24 to 48 hours of the meeting's conclusion. Mr. McCauley, want to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And the roll call, please.
Mr. Mankivsky.
Here.
Mr. Kleisner.
Here.
Mr. Cook.
Here.
Dr. Lawler.
Here.
Mr. McCauley.
Here.
Mrs. Simmons.
Here.
Board President Gonzalez is absent tonight.
All right, with 6 members present, we have a quorum. Is there anything the board would like to move from consent to new business? All right. If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Oh, roll call, please.
Mr. Kleisner.
Aye.
Mrs. Simmons.
Aye.
Mr. Cook.
Aye.
Mr. McCauley.
Aye.
Dr. Lawler.
Aye.
Mr. Mankivsky.
Aye. 6-0, the motion is carried. Motion is approved. Now it is time for board and superintendent salutes. I'll turn this over to Dr. Layden.
Yes, thank you. I tried to have a secret tonight, but I think our friends in the back of the room kind of gave away the secret that we have some guests here tonight to celebrate a fantastic accomplishment from Harder Middle School. So with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Faulkner. He will share a little bit about our group, introduce Mrs. Anderson, and we will see a performance from them.
So I won't steal the show. Obviously, our band showed up in full force. Not surprised. But I would love to introduce Mrs. Anderson, our jazz band and band director here at Hart.
So this outstanding group of students back here are 7th and 8th graders that auditioned in August to be a part of our Carter Middle School Jazz Band. Going back to last spring, knew what I had in store for this year. So I submitted our application to the Illinois Music Educators Association to perform at this year's Illinois Music Education Conference. It's a quite an elaborate application process. I had to send 2 recordings, had to send a band picture, had to send a biography of the band, had to send biography of the school district, a biography of myself. So it's quite an elaborate application. And then before the end of school, we were notified that we were selected to perform at the conference this year. So that was a huge accomplishment. So we ran auditions in August, came up with this great group of kids, had 2 rehearsals a week for them, 4 rehearsals a week for me. And then January 25th, we went down to Peoria, performed a joint concert with Oswego High School, which was pretty cool because that's my alma mater. And so they did a great job. And now we're going to play one of our tunes, our opening tune from the concert. Thank you, Ms. Strass in the corner, for being our videographer for the day. Oh, never mind. This is our last song. Jonathan. That's one of my music teacher friends. He teaches, or just retired from teaching in Winfield. He came out and helped us with our rehearsals and helped us with some of the sectionals. But kind of cool to have him play along with us.
Great job.
I don't know if you could see, but we did have a guest drummer in the band on that song too, Mr. Faulkner. And Miss Simmons' daughter was there recording us as well, and she actually had a video. So the tune we play is called Unleash the Chicken, which is like a New Orleans second line tune, which is basically like a big street parade party kind of tune. So that's why all the kids were standing. We don't normally stand up. So the whole band was standing up. We had people in the audience that were standing up and dancing. So it was pretty cool. Sam's video like actually panned back to show all the kids that were up dancing and having a good time with the band. So it was a great experience for those kids. You know, not many groups get to do that. So that was a pretty big deal. We were only one of two middle schools, so pretty big deal.
Yeah,
Great job.
it's kind of like the equivalent of going to state, is what they just did. It's pretty awesome. It's pretty amazing that our school was down in Peoria representing the state of Illinois, because that's how we do it. Yay, yay. Yeah. All right. Thank you for having us. We
Thank
really
you for coming
appreciate
in.
this. Thank you.
Thank you for coming in. Great job.
That was all we had for salutes. Thank you.
All right. Dr. Fuchs? Nothing. All right.
That's awesome.
All right.
Thank you.
The board appreciates everyone in attendance this evening and invites you to stay.
Parent of that one member of that awesome band. I want to thank the Kaneland School District for providing a program for this wonderful art. You do a marvelous program, and with the band, the arts in general, vital for the students being in school. So thank you. You're awesome.
Thank you. Thank you. They did a great job. Great job. The board appreciates everyone in attendance this evening and invites you to stay as we move into the new business part of the meeting. We understand that not everyone is able to stay for the entire meeting, and we wanted to make sure you know that this is an open meeting, so you are able to come and go as you need. And we look forward to seeing you at future meetings. Next on tonight's consent agenda, that contains the following information. The approval of the Treasurer's Report, January 2024. Number 2, approval of minutes of the January 29th, 2024 regular meeting. Number 3, approval of personnel. Number 4, approval of the destruction of audio recordings. from closed session meetings from August of 2022. Approval, number 5, approval to not release closed session minutes from July 2023 through December 2023. Number 6, approval of accounts payable, correction to the January 31st, 2024 report, informational items. Number 7, student suspension data report. And number 8, Freedom of Information Act report. I will now entertain a motion to approve the consent items listed.
So moved. Second.
And a roll call, please.
Mrs. Simmons. Aye. Mr. Cook.
Aye.
Mr. McCauley.
Aye.
Dr. Lawler.
Aye.
Mr. Mankowski.
Aye.
Mr. Kleisner.
Aye.
The motion carries 6-0. The consent agenda is approved. All right, public comments. We use the public comment section as an opportunity to listen to our stakeholders. The board does not debate or engage in conversation during this time. I'd like to remind everyone to state your name and village of residence for the record. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes or less. Public comment is a maximum of 30 minutes with a 20-minute total length of time for any one subject. Those who speak are asked to maintain a tone of courtesy and civility. And so first signed up is Mr. Jerry Elliott.
Thank you for having me. I like to come by about this time of the year, especially when I've been paying my taxes, and visit you and see how the school business has been going on. And so I write a little letter to that effect. So this year, of the taxes I paid, 4,636 of it went to you. So the board's ability to manage that money is a concern to me. And it's, each year I come to levy, it seems as you ask more and more. So in looking at last year's ending June 30th, 2023 audit, which I think is a very fine document, the revenue was $100 million, 130,000. Expenses, $91,757,000. The net position was improved by $8,372,000. So I congratulate you on that. But we're still in the hole by $20,401,000 according to this audit. We had a student enrollment of 4,053 students. On the average daily attendance was 3,443, where we had 610 kids missing every day. That seems a little bit alarming to me. Money left on past referendums was $119,144,000 at bonds payable, listed at 2 to 7.5%. And so, except that does not appear to be the true interest rate on the whole thing. As an example, was the school building bond, it was issued 2009B, was for $4,620,000. It's a 20-year bond listed at 5.88 to 6.6 interest. The problem is the district didn't plan to pay that. They didn't plan to pay the interest, and you let the bond balloon up to now $16,135,000 to pay for it, pay it off. So I find that difficult to trust that an organization would do something like that. It may not be your faces, but that you did. This organization did it, and I find it that's really deceptive. It's almost fraudulent. So now looking forward to this year's business, it seems the board has budgeted $12,356,000 to pay toward bond money that we owe, and has paid $12,351,000 year to date, leaving a balance of $4,377. So unfortunately, the $785,000 interest payment was again moved to year 2025 to achieve those numbers. So I guess it's kind of hard to break that habit. Our ending fund balance is scheduled to be depleted by $3,268,000, leaving $12,093,000 in operating funds, down from 15 million last year. I'm not really sure why that's happening.
All right, Mr. Elliott, your time has expired. 3 minutes has expired. Thank you. Next,
Well, I pay a lot of money.
I know.
You guys can take a couple minutes.
no, your time
I
has
see
expired. Your
Governor
time is,
Pritzker has announced,
Mr. Elliott, your time has expired. Next,
you gotta be serious.
well, we have 3 minute limit. We have a 3 minute limit
Why
on
don't you
it.
get a cop come in here and take me away?
No, we're not about that.
I
You're a
prepared-
3 minute
I
limit.
prepared a document to talk to you. I've not been found screwing around. Governor Pritzker has enacted a new 20
Next speaking, we have Mr. Scott Stalka.
we got a new law that's it's gonna be additional cost to this.
Or you want to wait for the second public comment? No. We have a second public comment towards the end of the meeting where you can continue, but your time has expired.
Pretty belligerent, I think.
You had your 3 minutes. Go ahead, Mr. Stalkup.
Hi, Scott Stalkup from Sugar Grove. I have 3 kids in the district. I'd like to talk about KIPLA and the last meeting and the referendum that's upcoming. So early on when KIPLA came out or Ignite came out, it was conveyed to us at several open houses, etc., that there was no cost being spent on this. It was volunteer. They were just buying paint. There was no cost on furniture. And now we have $2.3 million being spent on that. So I attended at least 3 of these open houses between my wife and myself. And that was conveyed. It was asked at each open house. So I want to put this in perspective. I believe there were 97 students currently enrolled in KIPLA, which is 2% of our district's enrollment, if you do the math. When you get to the 10 students that had a great year and want to continue on into high school, while I'm so glad that they had a great year in development and their education, that's a wonderful thing, I find it very hard to justify spending those funds on 0.2% of the district's student body when you could spend that money to renovate a hallway at the high school, when you could renovate a classroom, when you could renovate bathrooms at the high school. There's a lot of work that would then impact 1,400 kids at the high school, the middle schools that are moving up in a year. I just find it hard, as everyone talks about the equality for the kids, that we're focusing on 10 kids at such a small percentage at such a sizable dollar amount. So I know the referendum is coming up. I'm interested to see that, but as the district is looking to gain traction and support from the community, you're going to have to address that and show why these are important to justify those expenditures to build trust with the community. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Stalkup. Next, we have Mr. Joey Corbett.
Hi, my name is Joey, and I am in fifth grade.
Excuse, do you want to move closer to the microphone, please?
Okay.
Yeah. All right. I just
Sorry.
want to make sure, because they're broadcasting, okay?
Okay. Hi, my name is Joey, and I'm in fifth grade. I attend Kaneland Ignite Academy, and I live in Elburn, Illinois. The purpose of me here today is to talk about my experiences so far at Ignite. First, we don't really have any set times for subjects. I like that because it's not just based on grade level. We can do it with other grades at different times. So, like math, we have our groups in the morning, and if we have an assignment, we can work on it towards the afternoon. And we have a May-Do Must-Do that is giving us a list for the whole entire week, and we have different things to do on different days. Like on Wednesdays, we sometimes get a reading response, and then other days we just get iReady to do. And I like how we get to choose like when we do it. It's not like chaos, but we get to like choose that at this time I want to do my iReady, get that out of the way for the week. And then if you want to do like math later on in the afternoon, you'll attend your group in the morning if you have one, and then you will you can work on your math like a packet or something, and you can do it at different times. I like how if we are in a different grade, like me, I'm in 5th grade and I am above grade level in some subjects, so that helps me be able to work with higher grade levels. I know me and my friend were in the same math group, and we've been able to work with 2 kids in Empower, which is middle school. I think one was in 6th grade and the other was in 8th. So we got to work on harder stuff instead of just doing what we normally do with the whole entire class. So you can have like different points. It's not you're learning things that you already know and you're getting slowed down. If you're just in a normal class, you'd have just the set time and you'd be working with kids that are at different grade levels rather than being at Ignite, and you can work with kids that are your grade level and you'd have a group and you'd do the same exact things that you'd normally do. And that's basically it.
Great, thank you very much. Next, we have signed up Ms. Katie Soderstrom. Did I pronounce that correctly? Soderstrom, okay. I'm not sure.
Good evening. Thank you for welcoming me back this evening to speak on the targeted expansion of the KIPLA program into high school. My name is Catherine Soderstrom, and I have been an Elburn resident since 2012. I'm also a licensed social worker who works in the surrounding area with a background in child development and working with children. Additionally, I'm employed at a local university as an adjunct instructor for the bachelor's and master's of social work students at that university. At the last school board meeting on January 29th, 2024, I spoke about the personalized learning environment KIPLA provides for students and how students taking an active role in their educational process is crucial to develop active, critical thinking, engaged learners. These qualities will set an educational baseline for students in high school, college, and working environments of their future professions. Current research continues to support this type of learning environment from a child development and growth perspective. Today, I'm speaking on this topic from my perspective as an adjunct instructor working in higher education. When working with college students, the expectation for students is to be able to learn and understand information being presented to them, critically analyze and evaluate the materials, and then apply the information in situational analysis through case studies. In the employment field, that's expected to happen immediately in real time. This is a core expectation for higher education that begins in high schools and is enhanced through programs like KIPLA. Higher education colleges and universities are expecting students to enter their programs with this skill set already intact. Prospective employers are too. Local education at the community level must adapt to the changing post-secondary and employment requirements, or our students risk being left behind. In a college and workplace environment, implementation of executive functioning tasks, time management skills, project development, and advocacy for self and others remain the expectation. Expanding the KIPLA program into the high school level will be already incorporated into their education. As stated in January, the Kaneland School District has an opportunity to be a leader in the Fox Valley area by continuing to fully fund and develop the KIPLA program, as planned. Like fellow KIPLA parents, I also have had discussions with parents in neighboring school districts who are considering a move to the Kaneland School District boundaries because of the KIPLA program and the opportunities it presents for their children's education. The mission statement of the Kaneland School District is to graduate all students, college, career, and community ready. This includes current and prospective KIPLA students, especially students currently enrolled in 7th and 8th grades at KIPLA. This program is an evolving asset to the school district, and I would like to request the board continue to support and fund this program through its high school expansion. Investing in the students of the school district continues to be a worthwhile expense. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Soderstrom. All right. Seeing there's no one else signed up for first public comment, there will be public comment again towards the end of the meeting. There's a sign-up sheet, I believe, in the back still. Yeah, in the back still. We will then progress on to new business. The first item of new business is the approval to seek bids for the spring 2024. Dr. Fuchs, could you please provide more information? Or Ms. Bogan?
Let Mrs. Bogan start, and we'll tag team as needed.
Got it.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Good evening. As the district is preparing for the 24-25 school year, part of the process is to seek bids for items that are purchased annually. Dr. Fuchs works closely with all of our operational directors as well as building principals, the business office, and other key people in order to solicit bids, and in some instances to gain proposals or contract extensions. There were several items that were outlined in the memo provided, and I just want to walk through each of those now and answer any additional questions. The first item is fuel. We currently have a contract with Conserve FS. The contract expires as of June 2024. This is an item that the district bids annually, and that's really due to the uncertainty of the market and volatility in that area. In the past, the district has entered into longer range contracts. Sometimes that's worked out in our favor, and other times it's also been quite difficult, and we haven't been able to get the best prices possible. The second item listed is special education transportation. This year, we are in the last year of a 3-year contract with First Student. So that contract will expire at the end of this year. This was our first contract with First Student for special education, and it's been a very positive experience. They've provided very good service, and as a district, we've been very happy with that relationship. At this time, administration would be seeking to extend that contract for 2 years. And so by law, we would be able to extend for up to 5 years. But at this time, we're asking for a 2-year or looking for a 2-year extension. And so we'd be asking to go for the ability to seek proposals. The third item is cafeteria food and supplies. These items are generally exempt from bidding because they are perishable. There's quite a bit turnover. This is an area where there's usually a limited number of potential vendors. And so what we've seen is that for the large part of the bid, the majority of that product, that service, would be for one bidder, and then generally the district has to supplement with different vendors to sort of fill in the gaps for those items. Athletic training. Again, we are at the end of a 3-year contract with Northwestern Medicine. That contract will expire at the end of this year. Northwestern Medicine has provided wonderful service, and administration is looking to extend the current contract and would like to seek a proposal from Northwestern Medicine to do that. Kaneland High School has seen an increase in participation in athletics, and so the extension of that contract could contain some additional contract hours. Next is copier paper. This is an item for the past few years that the district has not bid. That was really due to shortages that were experienced from COVID-19 and then post. So it was really difficult to have one large purchase from one single vendor. So we are looking to return to past practice for a single bidder or a single vendor through the bid process. to be able to secure a large order. Snow removal, we are at the end of the 3-year contract, and so that would need to be bid. Fire systems inspections, again, that is the end of a 3-year contract that ends June 2024. That's currently with Phoenix Fire Systems. That bid would be looking for services that would include inspections of sprinkler systems, fire alarm systems, fire extinguishers, and then all of the kitchen Ansel systems. And then last but not least, we are at the end of a 3-year contract for garbage disposal and recycling services. Currently, that contract is with Groot. And so we are looking to bid that. Once the bidding would be complete, all of those items would be brought back by administration to the Board of Education for approval on consent agenda. So at this time, administration is asking for approval to seek bids for the spring on these items, and also proposals for possible contract extensions.
Are any of these subject to purchasing co-op in conjunction with other school districts, or? For-
Custodial paper supplies, we do
Okay.
that through a cooperative. The rest of it,
I'm looking at consumables.
no.
The only other thing I could see there would be copier paper or,
We usually order it by the truckload. So
yeah, no,
it's pretty efficient.
Yeah.
If you order less than a truckload, it's more expensive, but yeah, so we do that.
How many bids do you typically take if you're with like the fuel conservative fest? How many are
For fuel, we only get 2 or 3 at the most.
2 or 3? Okay.
Yeah, there aren't that many vendors.
that's for,
Same thing with cafeteria food and supplies there.
There's
Yeah.
2 or 3 primary out there for
Yeah.
most of these topics, correct?
Yeah, athletic training, same thing. There were 3 last time. So that's, and we are happy with who we have. They were new this year, so that's why we're looking at maybe extending it. Depending on how the proposal comes back, we'll bring that to the board.
Okay.
Snow removal, we usually get 4 on that. 3 or 4 on snow removal. Fire systems, I think we had 3 or 4. Yeah, there's not an abundance right now of people looking to, or doing these types of things. So,
Since we are asking for the athletic trainers just to be continued, do I need to abstain?
that's not being done tonight.
Okay.
We'll bring that proposal back when we get it. Tonight's purpose is for you to say, yes, go get a proposal.
Okay, even though, the only reason I ask is because we're not asking for multiple proposals, we're just asking for theirs. So I didn't know if,
Yeah.
I can get that answer, but typically you do not need to abstain. People have chosen in the past, but by law, you don't have to abstain.
like I said, if it was multiple, if we were seeking out multiple, I would say I wouldn't mind, but I think I will. Okay. So, all right.
Thank you.
right, any other further questions or discussions?
Dr. Fuchs, can I just clarify one question, please? With these coming back, based on when the bids go out and the information you get back, does it come over a series of board meetings? What could the board, and just anticipate with some newer board members, this process moving forward?
Thank you for that question. A couple of the ones with proposals, we hope to bring back sooner than later for the 2-year extension. The rest of them right now, we're targeting the first board meeting in April. Sometimes we can make that target, sometimes we can't. So they may come over a couple different meetings, but our first target is the first meeting in April for a majority, and then the rest, hopefully, if not that one, the very next one. We like to wrap it up in the spring, but spring break, the March board meeting is early, March 11th. So in order to get the ad in the newspaper, give the vendors an appropriate amount of time, get the bids opened, evaluated, and a board report, we're looking at April. Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome. Thank you.
So really quick, for the extensions, what's the criteria behind that for us to for you to approve those those 2 or 3 year extensions?
Yeah.
Are we looking at like the year over year, what it's gonna cost, the cost increase, is it comparable? And when, I guess, at what point where you say, okay, maybe we should seek out some additional bids on this?
Yeah, we're gonna look to see how those costs compare to current contract as well as, what we think the market's bearing. Right now, both of those services, we could see a significant increase. So I'm hopeful that the 2 vendors that we have come back with something reasonable.
Yeah.
When I say reasonable, a typical increase for contracted services on an annual basis is approximately 3% over history or over time. So if they're anywhere near that, I would recommend that the board consider it, given the positive relationship that they've established with the district.
Is there a way for us to seek potential, what it might be, a contract with somebody else without actually extending it for a bid? Okay. And once we get into the bid process, we have to take the lower of the bids no matter what. And we might compromise services, or, you know, especially when it comes to athletics. And so, okay. So we have to be a little careful how we go about that.
That is true.
Understood.
Yeah. So if you're not interested in extending, please indicate that tonight, because similar to being careful, I would hate to have pricing come back to you with a recommendation to approve, and then you not approve, and then we have to go out for bid, and now the competitors know what the other pricing is. That's not considered best practice.
Well, I think with the 2 that we're seeking to extend, I think they're 2 crucial, vital services to our students, athletes, and then our special ed students. If it's something that has been going well, and you don't see some astronomical increase from, you know, their proposal, I personally feel comfortable with that. But I don't want to speak for everybody. Just my opinion.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
Most likely, if there is a problem with what comes in, I wouldn't bring it for a recommendation. I would go ahead and start the process to seek public bids.
Okay.
That way that number doesn't necessarily have to come in front of all of you in public for the competition to see it. Because they watch for it, for sure.
Any further questions for Dr. Fuchs?
One other question, this is for previous board member Ryan. Copier services. Last year when we talked about copiers, I was not yet on the board. I know I was sitting and talking about this. Did they agree to a 5-year extension?
That, it's not a 5-year extension, it was a 5-year contract
A 5-year
last year. 5 years is the longest a contract can be in total without taking it back to bid.
Okay.
So we are finishing year 1 of 5.
Okay. All right. For some reason I had it in my mind that you were going to do like a year to year, because once we got through the transition into the new Infinite Campus, then because there was a lot of different IT things going on at the exact same time, so it's
Yes.
like this is a little bit too much, especially if we decide to go outside of Canon and redo kind of the badges and all the infrastructure that goes along with that. So I thought it was on like a year to year or 1 year extension.
It was a 5-year.
Okay.
Yeah, we got all new copiers with that, and they've been installed and working well and all kinds of.
Okay.
Yeah.
I misunderstood.
Sorry.
Any further questions or discussion? All right,
Thank you, Mrs. Bogan.
I will entertain a motion that the Board of Education directs the administration to procure the items above by seeking public bids or negotiating contracts as described above.
So
Motion by Mr. McCauley,
Second.
second by Mr. Kleisner. In a roll call, please.
Mr. Cook,
Aye.
Mr. McCauley,
Aye.
Dr. Lawler,
Aye.
Mr. Mankivsky,
Aye.
Mr. Kleisner,
Aye.
Mrs. Simmons.
Abstain.
Motion carries 5-0 to 1. What? No, wait. Make sure the numbers turn out okay. All right. So it carries. Approval to seek bids is approved. The second item of new business is a discussion of Kaneland referendum survey results. Dr. Layden, could you please provide more information?
Yes, thank you. Tonight's, again, the discussion is really just an update. There's no action required at this time. We're going to share survey results from the committee, survey results across the community, and then share a little bit about what the timeline is and what the next steps look like as far as more information coming back to the Board of Education. As you'll see, the first thing that I want to share is the number of survey responses respective to our survey for the referendum in April. Just as a comparison, just as a reminder that you'll see we had 537 total responses for this survey. For the previous referendum back in April, we had 572. So the good thing is the numbers are about even. It's about off by 25. So it's comparable amounts from the survey. And if you recall, for the last referendum, we also did a phone survey, and that phone survey had 653. We just don't have that planned right now as a comparison survey, but our comparison of the Google Form survey comparison was the 572 to the 537 on this one, just for a reference point. And then with that, we will go ahead and slideshow started, and we will kind of talk through from our committee. We do have our committee members here, and again, the committee right now is currently comprised is myself, Dr. Fuchs, Dr. Horn, principal at the high school, Jackie Bogan, who you just saw. She is on that committee as well as we transition. David Rollman, high school athletic director, Mark Payton, director of buildings and grounds, and then David Chavez, our director of communication. So with that, we will go ahead and as different committee members are presenting, they will come up to the microphone, kind of share some of the highlights from each of the results. We'll share some CAC results, and then also talk a little bit about the timeline, next steps, and then see what questions board members might have. Dr. Horn.
Hey, good evening.
Yes.
Okay, as Dr. Layden mentioned, a survey was sent out to the community. As you can see, the first and initial question was, did you vote for it? The vast majority of respondents did vote. So we were looking to get feedback from them on what it is that they were looking for in the survey. So we established the fact that, yes, they were voters on the initial referendum. The second part was trying to determine who it is that was being responsive to the survey that we were pushing out. The vast majority of people responding here are stakeholders that happen to have children being served by District 302. Okay. Looking at the age group, you can see there it's broken down by age range. Next, check.
This next question, out of the 537 responses, in the April 23 referendum, what was most important to you? And the choices were the scope of the projects, 59%, the cost of the impact at 32.8%, and then other. And so people were given the opportunity to actually write out what that other was. We wanted to know if you voted no to the Kaneland referendum, what was the primary reason? We gave people a description of the projects that they could refer back to on this question. And so, as you can see here, the majority of people responded as other. So it wasn't necessarily the cost of the tax impact for the projects. And so most people here did select that other category. In that other category, these were some of the themes that emerged from that. Some of the additional comments said, investing in an entirely new high school, supporting athletic improvements, construction of a field house was a common theme. The next one, opposed to athletic facility improvements, that was also a common theme. Concerns about fiscal responsibility and budget management was a theme.
concerns about the timing for allocating a budget for a new academy and the same year as a referendum was a theme. Communication was inadequate and confusing emerged as a theme. And then lastly, opposed to increased taxes due to already high tax rates. So that was an option, but people did choose to comment separately.
Question 4 of the survey asked the respondents to rank the project categories from the April 2023 referendum in order of importance or preference to gauge what the community feels should be the highest priority for future improvements. These two charts are analyzing the same data just in a slightly different way. The first chart is, you've got all your project categories down here. The first chart is those that selected which category is number 1 in priority. The second chart is those that selected which category number 1 or 2. So they added 1 or stacked 2 on top of 1 to get those numbers. Both charts are very similar. The only difference is infrastructure and mechanical systems was number 1. Listed as when you're only considering those that selected number 1, when you're considering those that selected 1 and 2, infrastructure and modernized learning environments flip-flop positions. The other interesting thing is that student resources and supports jumps up pretty high relative to the remaining categories.
So I recently attended a community advisory committee meeting where members of the community provided feedback about the referendum. That was one of the topics that we presented, and these are going to be the common themes that were given to us from the community as feedback as to why the referendum didn't pass and the community's thoughts on going forward with the referendum. One of the main topics was athletic facilities. Many community members mentioned that they do have their children and other community members who visit athletic facilities in nearby communities, and Kaneland's athletic facilities are lagging far behind the other nearby school districts. Similar to what Ms. Bogan was saying earlier, some of the voters support athletics while others oppose it, so that was a common theme within the community as well. Many members stated that they've heard friends and other people in the community say that they would love to support the referendum if athletics are involved, and others are saying no, that they would not vote for a referendum if athletic facilities are involved in that. Next one was building and facilities. Some of the feedback was that we should share images of existing buildings and facilities. We should do in-person and video building tours for the community and highlight the high school's unchanged lockers and classrooms, basically just showing that nothing has really changed over the years from when some of those community members attended the high school to now. Another topic that they brought forth was the financials. Basically, some of the feedback we received was that reducing that initial asking amount created distrust. Community members would like a breakdown of funds allocated to each project. They would like more detailed information about the harder bonds tax impacts on the community. Current taxes should fund the infrastructure and mechanical systems was a lot of feedback that we heard that night. And the community would like to have a tax calculator for residents to know the exact tax impact of another referendum. Another hot topic that night was the communications that were related to the last referendum. They stated the Yes Committee lacked sufficient size and support. There needs to be more clear, concise, and easy to understand information in regard to a referendum if this goes to a vote again. We look forward to gathering the student opinion. Some of the feedback given was that we should target the 65+ demographic, and in the future make sure that the information is broken down into small chunks, kind of easier to read, easier to take in, with an increased frequency.
David, can you go back one slide just for a second on the communication piece? One of the things that we had and maintained throughout the previous referendum, leading up to that election cycle, was a website with all of the information on that. As we get ready to transition for more information sharing, you talk just a little bit about the process that you're going through right now to build what that web page is going to look like that will eventually be shared out. Just some of the things you're going to include in there for the communication process.
Sure. Yeah, right now, there was a website for the last referendum that actually had quite a bit of the information that was given to us in terms of feedback. It was actually there. What we're doing at the moment is taking down most of that information. We are leaving some historical points so the community can see some topics that were listed on that website in the past, such as the tax calculator, the list of projects, the amount of money, information about the harder bonds. So we're going to go ahead and kind of keep some of that information up to show the history of what was there. And right now, the website's going to be converted more to a website where we gather feedback, mainly for the community to come to see what's going on right now with the timeline, what is the result, so they can see the results of the surveys that we've put out there so far. But really the main goal of this website now is to show a little bit of the history, what's going on right now, and mainly gather information. That website is under construction, but will be available to view very soon. We'll have more information to come on that.
So this website was available for the last referendum. Clearly, a lot of people did not actually look at it, right? Because a lot of the information that was talked about was right there. How do we communicate this website better, I think, to the community then? So then everybody's fully aware, and I don't know if that's, yard signs saying, hey, there's a referendum website, go check it out, to, a TikTok account on referendum, or the D302 TikTok. I don't know.
Sure.
I'm just thinking outside of the box, right?
Yeah,
Because this
absolutely.
is the big thing. I know there's tons of information. If you go to the website, we know, from the Board of Education, there's tons and tons of information there to what's going on in each individual school. There is a lot of information. I think and I think that might be part of it too, right? There's all this information coming at us, or at least access to all this information. And sometimes it can be kind of too much and overwhelming. So how can we specifically say, hey, this is the website you need to go to. Everybody's going to know about it, at the end of whatever kind of, marketing blast that's done. And I'm thinking, have we thought through that yet?
Yeah, it's a very good point. Very good question on that. Obviously the last website or some information maybe didn't reach the right people, wasn't promoted properly or marketed properly in certain aspects of it. So really, that'll be my job at this point. Going forward is to really identify the ways that we can make sure that the community is fully aware of everything that's going on, whether it's the surveys that are out there, the planning, and this particular website that has all the details. Really, it's going to be using all our resources to put that information out there. You mentioned some stuff, signs, those type of things, but also through social media. We're going to go ahead and make sure that we're consistent with the frequency of that information, take some of the community's feedback there of making sure that we're making that information just really kind of small bits of information that gets to the point of what we're trying to get through to you. And then from there, kind of build on that and just kind of increase that with frequency and make sure that everything is very digestible. We're going to use every resource that we have, including, advertising, those type of things, marketing, and everything, all the tools that we can utilize from a communication standpoint. I think it's going to be important to really make sure that we promote this and basically have more time to really get this information out in the community, so the community has more time to kind of take it in themselves, provide feedback to us, and make sure that we're going in the right direction if the board does decide to go through with another referendum. So that's really everything that you mentioned we have been planning out. A lot more details to come with that, but yes, everything from videos to social media to written communication. I think videos will be something that we definitely want to highlight next time around. It's a little bit of a more, it's kind of friendly to the viewer, I'm sure, as those of us out there. Nobody really wants to sit and read through a whole list of 2 pages of documents. So what our goal is going to be is to really break that down into the key points, the important information that the community needs to know, put that into videos, social media, and print, and just kind of make sure that we just put that information out full force into the community. So hopefully that helps.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I just want to mention, I have a concern, because we have such an urgent need for the referendum. And you said from a year ago, we had roughly 570-ish doing a survey.
Yes.
And now we're down to 537. That makes me nervous. Why that makes me nervous is I would expect more of the community to respond. And I'm concerned that when you do the survey, how many of us do surveys and think, is my opinion going to matter? I would think this should be like triple, double at least minimum. And I'm concerned. I want the community's voice to be involved. What really makes me concerned is you have 82% of the 537 have students. And if we have roughly over 4,000 students, I want to make sure that everybody has a voice. How are we going to push this out to make sure that, hey, we want everybody's feedback, everybody from the community. I mean, if we have roughly 4,000, I mean, you have almost double that, as far as parents and everybody. I don't know if everybody else recognizes that. To me, it's really a big concern. And I just want to make sure that everybody speaks up on this, and if there's a way to really push it out. You brought up a great point about the website. If people aren't going to the website, I mean, how is this communication getting out, and I don't know. I mean,
I agree. So the issue from what we did last time to now, we're losing people too, because people had kids graduate. We have parents that are going, my kid's a senior this year, I don't care. Yep. Even though it's still their taxes. So it's us still getting across to them. Had a lot of parents talk about, well, by the time this gets up and running, my kid won't even be around anymore, so a lot of them are checking out because of that. And so how do we engage them in that sense? To add to that is, my concern is we're getting the voices, but we're getting conflicting voices. That survey is talking about how maybe athletics it's number 4. It's not a big need. But then we talked to the CAC and they're like, it is a need. And it is a need, it is a need. So what is the survey, the people, the parents, the ages? Is it younger kids that haven't had tours, don't know what our athletic fields look like? What are we missing there? So if anybody says, no, we don't need any improvements to athletics here at the high school, want to know, have they been here? Because we do. I mean, if you just drive here, you go to we have good, amazing sports, amazing coaches, and we've done great things, but we need improvements on absolutely every sport. And so for anybody that says no to that, it's like, how do we get them to understand? Maybe, it's not a field house, but what's the in between? So to your point too, is how do we communicate that to the people that are thinking, nah, it's not a priority,
I just want to make sure we don't go down the same rabbit hole, or there's a mirror from 2023 going in. That's just my biggest concern.
Thank you. Before we move on to the timeline of next steps, any other questions for Mr. Chavez? Thank you. Timeline, kind of the next steps. A couple things to remember. One of the things, as we share this information, one of our goals is to expand out, because what we use is our school messenger, our product at school that has the contacts of our current families. So that's who we're right now able to contact. So one of our goals with Mr. Chavez is to expand that out to people that are not part of the process, people that aren't in the district. Yeah. So one of the things we're going to expand and extend into the March to June timeline is going to be, how do we get other groups? How do we get groups outside of Kaneland? How do we get Chamber of Commerce? Where do we go and find them? Our other community members that don't have students in the district, how do we get their voice as well? That'll be one of the other goals that we have as part of the timeline. The other thing as part of the timeline that we did here was, number 1 was the support of families. So we'll do additional surveys, we'll do additional information sessions, tours, we'll publicize that. Then the other piece was the teacher support as well. So as part of the process that you'll see on the timeline, we have teacher and staff meetings set up, that we're going to go to each of the buildings And last time we shared what the projects were. This time it's more of truly a listening session. What are your needs? Then that way we can recompile the projects. Because if you recall, the last referendum had 10 projects, narrowed down to 6, which is the final 57 million. At this point right now, those 6 projects could be a starting point, but they're not necessarily the same projects that will be a part of this. This is the process between now and June for us to bring back to the board 2 or 3 different times, for the board then to consider which projects, if we do go to referendum in November, by August, which projects we want to have on there. So it might be some of the same, might be some new ones, it might be different ones. So just know that that is part of this timeline to learn that, to bring back to our board, maybe different projects, some of the same projects, completely up in the air.
So it might mean a reprioritization
Yes,
of projects.
100% based on the feedback, and that feedback from the various groups that you'll see here is to have that as much as possible, Board Member Simmons, latest and greatest updated based on current people that are involved.
You mentioned you're going to do like input feedback meeting with the staff, and it looks like other groups and stuff. How will they be able to voice their, like, if they have any ideas and stuff like that, or like, will they have a survey they can fill out or something, or is it just at that meeting they have to share with you at that time? I'm just, in case people can't make a meeting, like, how can everybody, we can make sure everybody has a voice, or somebody doesn't feel comfortable enough to share their feedback.
Perfectly. The first thing will be the in-person, but then based on that, based on the attendance, based on the feedback that we do receive, do we then need to create another survey? So that is always an option down the road. Also note too that staff right now, we have the 5 Essential survey. There will be other surveys coming out. We want to be respectful of how many surveys that we do share, not just with our staff, but also with our families and community members across the district when it's another survey. Yeah, to be careful with that. So then again, what we have over the next couple of weeks will be several sessions in each of the buildings. Facilities Planning Committee will meet. We'll get feedback from that group as well, that meets multiple times throughout the year. And then you'll see the March to June. In between that time, there's an April board meeting and a June board meeting where we will meet to bring back more feedback, updated feedback, latest findings. And then that way, if there's any other direction from the board that we need to follow up with, we can get that immediately and then go have those discussions with the various groups and determine what other pieces of feedback we need to receive and other ways in which to communicate. And I know having a director of communication this time around, I know is going to be very helpful to make it more engaging and more interactive with community members.
Thank you for doing this, because I know the original team that had done this, when you guys, you know, that you tried to get a group of a good variety of people to be on that original board or that original committee, and did a lot of legwork, did a lot of that stuff. And so they did a good job based off of what they could at that time. And so I know this is that next step of getting even more voices. So I appreciate that.
Yes, thank you. The last slide, and you've asked questions along the way, and thank you for those. As we just shared, and Board Vice President Mr. Mankivsky shared the report prioritization based on the feedback we received, based on surveys, based on information, costs. As you know, the cost escalation over the period of time may shift the amount, may shift the number of projects that we can focus on for the pending referendum if we do go in November. And then also the expand the projects to other buildings. That's why we are going to the other buildings to get that information, share it. All of our departments will be represented, all of our stakeholder groups, and then we'll clearly outline what those findings are by the different groups to make sure it's in real time for the board to look at and consider. Then the last piece, number 3, is determine if any design or engineering needs need to be completed prior to the referendum. That question came up as part of our initial conversation because of the chicken or the egg kind of the conversation. If the board wants to move forward with a referendum based on concepts, there's some ambiguity in there that is then developed more so after a successful referendum. But then there's the other side of it. Which of the projects would the board feel, or are there any that the board will feel, again, you don't have to decide tonight, but are there other projects in advance that the board would like to see more direct designs, more direct drawings, so they put a name with a face a little more, so to speak. So there are expenses to that, and there are initial capital expenses that come with that in advance, especially if you put those expenses out. And then if we choose not to go to referendum, or the board chooses not to go to referendum, or if we do go to referendum and it's not successful, there will have been the expenditure of drawings, expenditure of renderings, to the extent that the board would like to know. So that's kind of the balance there, that we will, again, as we bring updates to the board, seek that out each time to see if there is something, to make sure that we can get those started as soon as possible. Other questions or feedback? Again, we have April coming up, and we have May and then June, so there are multiple board meetings for more feedback. But is there anything else? Communication, we talked about groups. Anything else? Questions? All right, thank you. Again, there's no action needed. We're just providing updates, and more will follow. So thank you for your feedback. Thank you to our referendum committee that is in progress, and for that information, thank you.
Great.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Layden.
Yes.
The third item of new business is the presentation and approval of the Harder Middle School course book upon first reading. Dr. Layden, would you please provide more information?
Yes, thank you. As with several of our topics that we have across Kaneland School District, this is a two-piece presentation, just like our policies. Tonight, Mr. Raleigh will share some updates, kind of next steps, what the process is, and then if there is nothing that requires additional information for presentation, this will come back at the next board meeting on consent. Mr. Raleigh.
Yep, thank you. Our Harder Middle School book is up for approval. The process looks a little bit different than the intensity at the high school level. We are, for lack of better terms, we are locked into some state mandates with our curriculum and course offerings roughly through freshman, sophomore year. And you really start at the junior and senior level to start to see a lot of elective opportunities specific to the middle school offerings. Most of that content is mandated by the state. When you think of 6th through 8th grade math, ELA, social studies, science, all of those offerings, there are very specific mandates that we need to follow throughout. Where we start to see a little bit of variance is with our exploratories. What you're going to see tonight, a little bit about the process. We do gather input from our teachers, and usually at this point, it looks like minor edits to existing language. There are occasionally new courses that are offered. However, as we prepare for the 24-25 school year, we do not have any new courses. Briefly discuss a couple of those small tweaks in the language in our music and our industrial arts programming. But the key piece there is that it does not impact the standards that are being taught. It impacts, in music, there's the addition. One of the largest changes is the addition. Kids are going to do some of their teaching and learning on the ukulele in addition to some of the instruments they use. And then really between music and industrial arts, there's just more detail has been added. It highlights, for example, industrial arts safety quizzes. Projects are pretty much the same. When you will likely see proposed course changes or additional course offerings is when we have, when Dr. Mum and I will present our curricular review area for that year. So right now, we are in the process of reviewing our social studies course offerings. That is still a little bit bound by what we have to offer, so you won't see a ton of new courses. But as a preview, next year as a district, we will be evaluating our exploratory and elective offerings. So that might be the opportunity where you start to see, or where we would recommend different courses to be added. But right now we do not have any for next year. Again, editing some of the language you can see between 6th and 7th grade general music. It's really generalizing the historical content of those courses, and the addition of the ukulele you can see there with piano and keyboard, but no major content changes. Similar holds true for industrial arts. Mr. Lavorsi does a fantastic job here. We were at the 5th grade step up night, and there was a parent that came and talked about, he remembered his project from building the wall and outfitting it with electrical. Does a phenomenal job, and kids really come to life there. He did a great job outlining some of those technical pieces. He explores everywhere from computer-aided drafting to manually building, learning about tools, power tools, the safety and how to safely manage those tools while they're building clocks and birdhouses. It is a cool sight to see when you go down to his shop. Very similar in 7th grade, it does have that STEM manufacturing focus. While that is not necessarily a high school course, it does help to align with some of the manufacturing pieces that are available for our high school students. And what that father was talking about was more of that residential construction. They pour cement fittings, they build walls, they build in electrical sockets. So none of that's new. It happens all the time, just a little bit more explicit detail in those course offerings. Like I said, we will start the review of exploratories, and the reason that we tend at the middle school to hold off until those curricular review cycles, when we look at things like this, there's no real financial impact to that. All these things are covered by either building, mostly by building budgets. There's no potential, there's no staff needed, additional staff needed to make some of these edits. When you look at adding additional exploratory classes, that is when you start to see the need for additional staff, additional curricular materials. It really requires an overhaul of the master schedule. So there are bits and pieces that do need to be financed, and we do have that opportunity coming next year with our exploratory curricular review cycle. One piece that I would like to put propose is that we are going to be looking at a fairly large change. And when I say look at, we are going to spend about a year investigating what that impact would look like for our staff and students, and we would possibly bring the recommendation to the board this time next year because it would impact our high school and our middle school course books. Right now, we do have a small group of middle school students that can take high school classes. That usually typically comes in the form of Spanish. Our Spanish 1 course is a year-long course that mostly freshmen take. It is broken down, and we follow suit with several of the other middle schools around here. That content is broken down to go through it at a little bit slower of a pace. So freshmen can take Spanish 1A, and then 8th graders can take Spanish 1B. So it is a full year of high school broken down between 2 years for middle school. It's similar. They have the opportunity, depending on how they sequence through math, to take Algebra 1. We do have a small subset of students that are eligible to take geometry. What we would like to investigate is what would happen right now if I'm that 7th, 8th grader that is taking Spanish 1. I do not get a high school credit for that. However, it does afford me the opportunity to go into Spanish 2 as a freshman. We do have kids that retake. We have about 10% of our students that take Spanish 1 at the middle school will go into Spanish 1 at the high school. It's the same content, it's the same standards, but it is credit bearing, it is GPA bearing. So what we want to look at is if we were to make those courses credit bearing while in middle school, what opportunities would be afforded to our students when they get to high school? It could mean access to higher level AP type classes in mathematics and foreign language. It also just would open up the course book for increased elective opportunities as they progress through high school. It would have an impact on GPA. So students would be earning credit. They would be earning high school credit. They would come out of 8th grade promotion with a high school transcript, a transcripted grade, and it would have possible impact on that staffing. So that's everything we want to investigate. Wanted to share it with you guys, and any formal recommendation we would bring to the board next year as part of a full-scale curriculum review.
Mr. Rowley, if I'm an 8th grader and I opt to take, I know it's all hypothetical still,
yes.
I understand it, but I'm an 8th grader, I opt to take it as high school credit, and I opt to take it for my GPA. I get to the end of the year and I realize whoops, probably shouldn't have done that. Can I opt out then at that point, or am I stuck with my bad GPA now?
It depends on what we would look at. So there are middle schools that most of them, if not all of them that we've looked at between our comparable school districts and outside of that, offer it in a 7th and 8th grade year. Some do offer at the end of 7th grade year, whether you're passing or not. If you don't like the trajectory of that course, then you don't have to take it 8th grade year, and there's no impact whatsoever. There are, I know of 1 or 2 where you go through the course as is, and at the end of your 8th grade year, you choose if you want that credit or not. I don't know at this time what that would do for all of the behind the scenes and Infinite Campus and transcripting and all of those pieces. If that is just as easy as checking a box that I want that, those are some of the things we would look into. Some do have a clear warning where, for lack of better terms, if you're into your 8th grade year and you're enrolled in this class and you're not passing, that is the downside. If I don't pass that course, I could potentially come into high school with a 0.0 grade point average or a 1.0 grade point average, and we don't want to set our students back going into their freshman year. But you do see it in both ways in other districts.
So the approval tonight on first reading.
Correct.
This is nothing to do with.
Yeah, that was a
classes.
fun
It's
preview.
only to do with the other updates to the other classes.
Correct. It would
Okay.
be
Just wanna make sure.
the generalized language with our music class and our industrial arts class, and then the overall course book for the middle school.
Any other questions? Discussion? All right, at this time, I will entertain a motion that the Board of Education approve the Harder Middle School course book on first reading.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Dr. Lawler and second by Mr. McCauley. And the roll call, please.
Mr. McCauley.
Aye.
Dr. Lawler.
Aye.
Mr. Bankivsky.
Aye.
Mr. Kleisner.
Aye.
Mrs. Simmons.
Aye.
Mr. Cook.
Aye.
The motion carries 6-0. The Harder Middle School course book first reading is approved. And it is now time for Superintendent Board Report. Dr. Layden, do you have anything you'd like to share?
Yes, a couple things. First of all, next Thursday night is our February CAC meeting, and we do not have a board member assigned for that one yet. Back when we did our initial survey, we didn't have anybody sign up. So if you could check your schedules, I'm not going to put anybody on the spot right now, but the February 22nd and the March 14th one we added, if you could check your schedules. Typically what we do is we get a primary board member and then a secondary board member to ensure that we at least have one board member there, and then any other board members that would like to attend are always welcome to. So if you could check for the 22nd of this month and March 14th, let me know if you're available. I'll just make sure we communicate who's volunteered for that. The next thing, one of the topics we had for future agenda, back from the fall, Mrs. Eggleston has done a great job organizing with our special needs PTO, the Parent Resource Fair. That was one of the topics that has been brought up, and we do have a flyer that we'll be sharing. It is in April. It's April 27th, and it's in conjunction with the special needs craft fair here. So what we'll do is, as shoppers come out to learn more about the fair, they can also purchase those items, and it's a fundraiser for the special needs PTO or PTA. And then also at the same time, there's also, I think, 21 different entities that have signed up to come and share more about as of now. Wow, so the number will be bigger down the road.
That's great.
Okay. Put you on the spot for that one to have more.
Good job.
But there's 21 as of right now. So as one of the things that you don't have in front of you, but on the flyer, it does say at the bottom, learn more about the community resources for students from early childhood through age 22, recreational opportunities, therapy providers, educational consultants, transition planning, and advocacy. So those are some of the groups that will be there represented. So as families want to come out and support the special needs PTA, they can also come out and learn more about those services that are in our community for our families to avail themselves to. And more information will follow for that for Saturday, April 27th. On another note that students will love, no school on Monday. That was always well received, and I'm sure Katie would probably also share that update in her report as well. But no school on Monday. And then the last thing that I have to share, February 29th, is our second of our 2 Kishwaukee division meetings for the year for the IASB. If you're available, that is on the 29th of February. Let's just get this month over with and move on to March. One syllable, a lot easier. The 2 primary topics, they have a rotational guest speakers. One is to learn a little bit more about AI and how it's impacting schools. So that we can, board members that attend can learn more about that. And then also the joint IASA, IASB group also is starting to work on their Vision 2030, which is a statewide strategic plan that's on a much higher level. We don't follow it necessarily. We're not required to follow it, but it's what the state is going to do for their direction for the next five or 6 years as part of Vision 2030. And as that is finalized, we can always share more updates, or if any board members are able to attend, you can always come back and share updates as well from that night. So if you're available and interested, please let me know for the 29th of February.
May I add, could we let the Mid-Valley folks know, Mid-Valley member schools know about the Parent Resource Fair?
Oh, yeah. David's gonna do a great
Okay.
job.
And I must say, great job in putting the fair together. That's outstanding. Can we also let Hinkley Big Rock know? Because I've had some talks with special ed folks there. They, okay. Okay.
The
Great.
Mid-Valley
Thank you.
liaisons meet monthly too, and
Yeah.
they share the positive work that other districts are doing. This is one that we'll share.
That's great. I'm sure they'd be of interest. Dr. Fuchs?
Yes, I just wanted to let the board know we have a finance advisory committee meeting Thursday night this week from 7 to 8:30 in the district office. If you would like a copy of the agenda, let me know. It went out today.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Fuchs. Ms. Fotenhauer?
And while Katie comes up to the mic, at the last meeting or 2 meetings ago, one of the things Board President Mr. Gonzalez asked Katie for was an update from her perspective on e-learning. But last meeting got to be late, and by the time she was up there, it was almost 11 o'clock. So she just bypassed that. I will take that information from Katie and I'll share it to the board in the weekly update.
Okay.
That way it's still timely for the board. Great. Thank you, Katie.
All right. Good evening. As students kick off the week with a Spirit Week for the Winter Dance, and the Spirit Days are brought by both Student Council and FFA this time. Today was Farmer's Day Off, which is Pajama Day. Tuesday is Country vs. Country Club. Wednesday is On Wednesdays We Wear Pink, which is Mean Girls inspired. Thursday is America Day, which students will either wear red, white, and blue. And Friday is Class Colors, with freshmen wearing yellow, sophomores green, juniors blue, seniors purple, and staff wearing black. Tonight at 6:30, Kaneland hosted its Powder Buff game where the senior guys play the junior guys. So we will see who ends up winning that portion of the game. And then after the 2 boys teams play each other, the winning team will face off the girls volleyball team. The Winter Dance and Assembly are also this week, with the Assembly being on Friday and the dance the following day on Saturday, February 17th at 7 p.m. The theme for the dance is Northern Lights Ball, with tickets being $25. For sports updates, girls varsity bowling finished in 5th place at regionals. Boys freshman basketball beat Rochelle 52-37. Girls varsity basketball beat Rosary 63-39. Girls junior varsity basketball beat Rosary 29-27. Boys varsity basketball beat Rochelle 83-47 for their senior night. And boys sophomore basketball beat Rochelle 59-47 as well. Boys freshman basketball beat Morris Community 59-39. And boys varsity basketball beat Yorkville Christian 69-63. Unfortunately for us, all level of girls varsity basketball fell to Sycamore, and boys freshman basketball fell to Ottawa Township 44-34. For upcoming dates, a choir concert will be on Thursday, February 15th at 7 p.m. And as I am happy to report alongside Dr. Layden at school on Monday.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Fotenhauer.
one other thing, when Katie and we meet 3 o'clock before on board meeting Mondays. One of the other things that we had talked about was for the next update to the board on the referendum, the April meeting. Katie will also take part of that as well, and she'll share a student perspective on referendum thoughts, high school needs, since that was a predominant theme from the previous referendum. So we do appreciate that. Thank you.
All right, board members? All right, topics for future agendas? All right.
Quite a few good topics in limbo right now, so.
Yeah. Yeah, pending, yeah. All right, now we are at the second section of public comment. First, we have several people signed up. First, Ms. Amy Corbett. Oh, well, maybe they'll change their minds.
Yes, maybe they will. Okay. So my name is Amy Corbett, and you heard from my son Joey, who's a 5th grader at Kipla. My daughter Anne Marie is in 2nd grade. She was going to speak and share her excitement for going to Kipla next year. Is a 3rd grader, but I think she got a little scared. We enrolled in Ignite, expecting Joey to be able to attend through high school and finish up there. We were told at the open houses that it was expected that this year's 8th grade class, as they moved to 9th grade, they would add 9th grade to Kipla. So we understood that with the exception of AP classes, they would attend high school at the Meredith building. So we've talked a lot about the successes that families are seeing with their children. And while they were celebrating that, they really got that unexpected news that there won't be a 9th grade. Hopefully, they're coming back with a new proposal for you guys, so we'll see about that. But it does create a lot of anxiety. I'm a substitute in the building every Tuesday, and when you're in power, you can definitely tell the kids that wanted to be here next year that they're concerned about what they're going to be embarking on after they've gotten into this new style. From the beginning, Kipla was going to be small, so to me, and it's not really unexpected that the first class of 9th grade would be small. Word of mouth, people have asked us all throughout this, keep us in the loop. How's Joey doing? We might want to do this in the future. 2 families are following us into 6th grade. It's not for everybody. I feel that if you could have provided an adapted ability to have personalized learning in the traditional schools, it would have been done. Having them in a building, Joey gave an explanation of his day. It's not chaos. I'm in there all the time, and they have their structure. They're doing well. It's a different type of learning environment, but they're learning the same things on the continuum. The building's there. I don't understand how people would think that there wouldn't be some sort of cost, but the building being there and having utilities and other things required regardless, it's nice to see kids alive and in those hallways. The last thing I want to say is I feel that when you're talking about the referendum, there's people that are maybe not in tune and hearing about it and paying attention. Maybe they're neutral, but I feel the same way about Kipla. There are a lot of people I've heard when I walk around in other schools as a sub, well, that's where the bad kids go. It's not true. When there was, I know I'm out of my time, but I used to see the sign in front of the schools, like elementary school, and I didn't understand what it was until I chose. And I really hope that parents will have an open mind and explore it. It may not be for their child, but it would be nice if there was that open-mindedness.
All right, thank you. Next, Anne Marie Corbett? No, okay, I want to give everyone the opportunity. Joey? Okay. I understand that.
Yeah.
I Probably enjoy the game more myself. Laura Ekstrom, please.
Hello, my name's Laura Ekstrom. I live in Village of Virgil. And I just wanted to come up here and talk to you about KIPLA and then also a little bit about referendums and how I'm hearing people are thinking anyway. So the first thing I wanted to talk about was financials, because we've been hearing a lot about that kind of in the last couple of days, and I know you're presented with some of those numbers last meeting. But I really want us to focus on the cost per student versus the overall cost. We were given some numbers for the school, just whole numbers. And with the 97 currently registered KIPLA students, we would have to pay that cost per student no matter what school they would attend. For the 9th grade expansion, I really encourage the board to look at the items presented that would be considered a per student expense. Those items that were presented would include the salaries for teachers, the curriculum expenses, transportation, and increased support staff. And when I looked at the numbers presented at the last meeting, taking the high end of the numbers, that worked out to be with 15 students that we had committed to KIPLA for 9th grade, $15,733 per student. This is not obviously a set in stone number, but it's a general idea, right? Currently, the high school is at approximately $17,000 per student. So we have plenty of room to add in the other incidentals that would come with running the school program. And I also hear many community members throw around these large numbers for startup costs for KIPLA. And when you really break it down and take out that per student portion, the startup costs for the KIPLA school were less than $500,000. And adding 9th grade, the estimate we were given that would be purely startup funds was $60,000 to $100,000. Also, in regards to financials, I know many community members are concerned about the referendum and how we're adding this new school, and those costs could be spent on the referendum instead. That's a common thing that I've heard from community members. I think there needs to be some education around which of those funds could be spent on referendum monies, if any. Because, like I said, I've heard a lot of concern about running KIPLA and spending those funds on that school when they could be spent on the infrastructure at the high school, and I don't think that's necessarily the case. So I would like to see some more community education around that. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Next, we have Ms. Catherine Soderstrom. I did it right this time, right? Yeah, Soderstrom? Soder, okay.
People call and ask for Mrs. Soperstrom, and I'm like, not here.
Yeah.
So, you heard me before. My name is Catherine Soderstrom. I have 2 kids that attend Kaneland School District here, both at the elementary levels right now. My daughter does attend Ignite Academy in the Inspire group, so she participates in the 3rd through 5th grade level. Like Miss Ekstrom, I also have been doing a lot of processing around the financial costs and concerns of the community associated with the KIPLA program. Like Miss Ekstrom referenced, the $60,000 to $100,000 in the operating costs for the expansion itself are really the number that we're looking at here. Student cost per student is a sunk cost. Staffing cost to educate those students is a sunk cost. There is $1,000 in increase for transportation, but out of the larger transportation budget, which is, I believe, $7 million from the number we were given, it's a very small amount. Increased costs for support staff for students who have additional needs is enrollment dependent. So regardless of where those students attend school, whether it's at KIPLA, an elementary school, a middle school, a high school, that support staff will have to be hired and paid for. Curricular licenses are the same thing. You are always going to be continuing to update these licenses based on the needs of the school, and those can be adapted and shifted around based on the needs of the district. The funds that go into certifying those licenses and expanding on them can be shifted around based on need. So I want to make sure that we can really reframe the cost that we were presented with to look at that $60,000 to $100,000 expansion cost for the infrastructure. Yes, this is an investment. Yes, this is a cost that we knew was coming because the expansion for the KIPLA program into 9th grade and the high school was planned. When you look at the budget documentation from the last year for the 2023 and the 2024 school district, which I've become very familiar with over the last 6 weeks, all of the language in that document says we are expanding. We're planning on getting more information, financial costs, more data, and then we're going to rework the budget. We're going to look at the numbers, and we're going to continue to present that information to the public about what that anticipated expense is. So with that being said, I think this is a natural process for a program that originally was planned for this high school expansion. On the topic of the referendum, I'd like to focus the idea of this $60,000 to $100,000 cost, and I'd like to say that that specific monies is a drop in the bucket compared to the work that the high school ground needs. And on the larger picture, the referendum is what's going to be needed to improve the infrastructure in the larger area.
All right.
Not 100,000.
Thank you. Thank you. Next we have Mr. Scott Stalkup.
Hi again, Scott Stalkup from Sugar Grove. Couple of important things. The $60,000 to $100,000 that is for infrastructure does not include staff that they were talking about. You're going to need staff as well as to fit out the classrooms and the other items. So with that, it is purely a facilities and infrastructure cost, not just the staffing needs to be accounted for. And along with the staffing, what's interesting is in the last meeting, Dr. Atkins said there were no high school teachers that were currently interested in teaching at KIPLA. So we're going to hire new teachers from outside our district to teach at the academy. And if there were 10 to 15 students that were introduced into the high school, my suspect is we would not need to hire any teachers. What to me KIPLA has shown is that smaller class sizes and better student to teacher ratios are the real solution, and giving the opportunity to interact one-on-one with the students is the big help here, to give them more time personally with the teachers and for instruction and assistance. So I would challenge that. I want to pivot a little bit to the referendum with the last remaining time. Trustee McCauley talked about engagement with the public. There was a great reaction to the town halls. Perhaps a few town halls should be entertained at various times to engage the public, interact, to hear what their questions, hear their comments as well. I think another important piece that you're going to have to respond to is the Crown development. I know the village president from Sugar Grove has been here. There's some information circulating about the fire station in Elburn that is planned, but that's not in Elburn yet. And then with the Harder bond, I know last time it was brought up and publicized that in, I don't remember the year, but in a couple of years, the Harder bond goes away and taxes would ultimately be lowered. However, that is one piece of it. By then, our other taxes are going up every year, and the district could levy more amounts each year as well to increase the taxes. So I think that whole sequence needs to be spelled out, as well as just the bond for that. And then lastly is with KIPLA, it's not just the students that are in KIPLA. We need to be responsible to all of our students district-wide.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Ms. Jennifer Crocker.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Crocker, and I live in Sugar Grove. I am the parent of an 8th grader at KIPLA. Wanted to add a couple fun facts that we learned at the KIPLA open house recently. 4th and 5th grade KIPLA students achieved the highest iReady reading scores of the entire district elementary schools on the winter test administration. The KIPLA 8th grade cohort had the highest growth in iReady math performance among all district 8th grade cohorts, growing 20% from fall to winter, which is amazing. 50% of KIPLA 4th graders performed at or above grade level in reading on the winter iReady benchmark. Other district 4th grade cohorts range from 21 to 36%. There's a few other stats that I'll email you because I'm limited on time. So I wasn't surprised to learn that after the last meeting, the board and admin received many emails from the community about the projected cost of the planned expansion to 9th grade. I'm sure you are all well aware that every single dollar spent in the district could be debated, with many expenses being deserving. The KIPLA expansion to 9th grade and, up to 12th grade has been part of the plan project for years. This isn't a pile of found money that should be debated on what else is more deserving. This debate was already had when they decided to open KIPLA in the first place. Mr. Rowley said at the last meeting that ideally we would have at least 20 students to expand to 9th grade. We have 10 students plus an additional 6 students that were turned away when they were told that 9th grade wasn't happening. If we had 4 more students, we wouldn't even be here asking for your help. I really hope to see KIPLA on the agenda for the next meeting. Don't allow this decision to keep being kicked down the road and continue leaving our students and families in limbo. I urge you to use this additional time to reach out to admin to ask any specific questions you may have to make sure that you're fully informed before making this decision. While you've received some negative feedback from the Kaneland community, please don't forget the countless emails and public comments made by actual KIPLA parents that live this educational experience on a daily basis and can truly see how portions of how our students are learning can and should be expanded into classrooms district-wide. We have firsthand experience and can see the asset that KIPLA is to the future of our community. Thank you.
Thank you. That is all those who we have signed up for second public comment. Is there anyone? Joey, change your mind. Sorry. Can't it? Anyone else? All right, seeing none, I will close public. Oh, I'm sorry, sure. State your name and village of residence, please.
Brian Soderstrom from Elburn. My wife talked a little bit about, or a lot about the KIPLA program, and there's a couple things that I want to kind of touch on that she had mentioned. So I know that funding keeps becoming an issue, but we also have to look at this as the greater picture. And when we're talking about, people mentioning, well, smaller class sizes are the reason that KIPLA is successful. That's not true. KIPLA is successful because this is a student-based program. The students are the ones leading the charge to pick what they're learning, to pick how they're learning it within the greater scheme of the program. It is still following all the guidelines that need to be followed for for their academic year, but they're able to work ahead, which is not possible in other programs. You can't have a 6th grader working at a 9th grade level in other programs, but in KIPLA, there is that possibility. You are able to move students up because once they show proficiency, they can move up. If they're not showing proficiency in a specific topic, they can work down and try to work themselves back up. This is not standard learning. Putting kids back into standard learning does not fix the problem and does not make these programs more successful. It's the program itself that is successful because the students are leading it. And when we're talking about smaller class sizes already, then, you know, if that's the issue, if we want to make smaller class sizes, we're talking about adding a lot more teachers, a lot more expenses, and it'll be more than what this program is going to cost us to just simply expand there. The sixth graders alone are, 33 students with, I want to say it was, I don't remember the exact number, but 10 to 15 seventh graders, another 10 eighth graders. So there are over 50 students in the middle school portion, and we're saying it's a smaller class size that's making them successful? No, it's the program itself and how the students are empowered to control their own learning, to show people how they're progressing, to be able to be critical thinkers and be able to express how they're going to learn and show proficiency. I also want to talk about the referendum real quick. I fully support it, but I think one of the issues that we have is without people being able to break down why is it important that we update athletics, how does it actually compare to the other schools around us? Because we don't want to be that bottom tier school when we're talking about the greater, Fox Valley area. And currently we are. When it comes to our athletic facilities, we need to be able to expand, but we need to be able to get that out there as far as why it's important, why this is helping the students, how we actually rate compared to other school districts in the area. So thank you, I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Soderstrom. Anyone else? All right, with that, we will close the second round of public comment. On to all right. The Board of closed session. The Board of Education is scheduled for a closed session to discuss the Illinois Open Meetings Act, Section 2, Sub C, Sub 2, and 2, Sub C, Sub 1, where there will be no action taken following the session. Therefore, after the vote to go into closed session, the recording of tonight's meeting will be concluded. I will entertain a motion to go into closed session to discuss Illinois Open Meetings Act, Section 2, Sub C, Sub 2, and Section 2, Sub C, Sub 1 at 8:49 p.m.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Kleisner, seconded by Mr. McCauley. And a roll call, please.
Mr. Mankivsky.
Aye.
Mr. Kleisner.
Aye.
Mrs. Simmons.
Aye.
Mr. Cook.
Aye.
Mr. McCauley.
Aye.
And Dr. Lawler.
Motion by a vote of 6-0. Motion is carried. We are now heading into